Hello and welcome, and this just in, we have news, breaking news, up to the minute coverage here on the Golden Wrestling Channel, and it seems that Cody Rhodes, also known as Stardust, has asked for his WWE release. That's right, earlier today, Cody Rhodes posted on his Twitter that he was going to ask for his release from WWE. He is leaving the company. He also posted it on his official Stardust page. So it looks like this is legit 100% true. And as always here in Golden Era Gaming, like I do, I'm here to discuss with you how I think this athlete and or pro wrestler or sports entertainer, whatever word you want to use, will fare in other companies. Now, if you hear me pause for a bit, I apologize, but I'm eating. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime, but I wanted to talk to y'all because there's none on TV and none of my YouTube channels are talking about it. So I figured I'd talk about it. I think Cody Rhodes is a phenomenal talent. Like, he's really good. Can't say phenomenal anymore. That's AJ's thing. But yeah, Cody Rhodes is really, really good. Um, I think it's one of those things where WWE's roster is just oversaturated with talent right now. Um, because I guess they really want everybody in the whole wide world to purchase the network. So WWE is just buying all these amazing talents, which is cool. You know, as a fan, what a time to be a fan. But somebody like Cody, 5, maybe 10 years ago, excuse me, he'd be main eventing. And that's obvious because if you think about the group Legacy, which Cody was a part of, he was pretty much main eventing back then. Uh, so yeah, Cody's a young dude, he's only 30 years old. It's not like he's old. He's a young dude. He's still got some miles left in him. Sorry about that. I'm really hungry. I haven't ate since the morning. So let's talk about how he would fare in other countries, and other promotions. Now, the first thing that came to mind was CMLL down in Mexico. Now, this is the first one I'm going to talk about because I kind of want to get it out of the way. Do I think Cody would do well there? I think Cody would do well anywhere, to be quite honest with you. And I think he would do well in CMLL or AAA, whichever one he decides to go to. And it's close to the States. So if he decides to stay in pro wrestling, that's the question as well. We don't know if he's going to stay in pro wrestling. But if he decides to stay in pro wrestling, I think he could work well in CMLL, down in Mexico. Uh, the issue with that being is that I think in order to wow the fans down there, he would have to get a more high risk maneuver moveset. I know he can do a suicide dive. I've seen him do it. But he would probably have to add more aerial stuff to his movesets. But Cody's the kind of guy that if the challenge were there, if the money was there, and if he wanted to, I'm pretty sure he could do it. I think it would take him a while. I don't think he goes to Mexico and just bam, automatic star. I think he would go down there. He would get a lot of name recognition. They would play off being Dusty's child, and then it would take a while, but he would be able to build a reputation. Excuse me. Now, the unfortunate thing about going down to Mexico is that he would have to retrain. And I think personally, that's the least, like, considering all of his options, I think that's the least one he should think about right now. I think he has way better options on the table. For example, ROH. I think if he goes to ROH or just the American indie scene, he's going to make a ton of money, first and foremost, doing independent bookings, if he were to do it. And in ROH, I think it would take him. I don't know. I think he's a star as soon as he walks through the door in ROH, and I think he's world champion in a few months, maybe under a year, maybe a year. I think he'll do well in ROH. I think his style would lend itself to ROH. I don't think he would have to use his gimmick of Stardust in ROH, or he could and just be like completely outlandish with it, which would get him insanely over. I think he's good enough uh, as an actor to be Stardust in ROH and just be completely over the top and have the fans love him because of it. Or if he goes the other route and if he were to become Cody Rhodes, and he can even probably do the dashing Cody Rhodes thing again, although I would prefer he didn't. But he could just be Cody Rhodes and just be like a really good wrestler. And um, I think the fans would gravitate towards him after a while. I think he would realize what works and what doesn't down in ROH, and I think he would be able to adapt. I think it would take a few months for him to be in the main event down in ROH, and I think as soon as he gets there, his celebrity, he'll be a star. I think he's a star as soon as he walks through the door, and I think that's true for most cases. The question is if he can hold that star, that power. You know what I mean? That celebrity power, that drawing power. The ability to make fans want to come see you. That's the question of whether he could keep it. I think in ROH he keeps it like for the first couple shows, and then the novelty wears off, and then he'd have to prove himself, which I think would be a little bit difficult. Not as difficult as in Mexico. I think Mexico would be the most difficult, but I think ROH would be a little difficult as well. Not too difficult, but I think he would have to adapt somewhat. But I think ROH would be a good choice, and I think doing independent bookings throughout the U.S. would make a lot of money for him and his wife. Now, if he goes down to TNA, he walks in the door and he's a star. He doesn't have to change anything. He can do the same Stardust gimmick, or he can be dashing Cody Rhodes, and he doesn't have to do anything. If he goes to TNA, then I would personally think that he's trying to get a lighter schedule and that he's not trying to work as hard, because like he can walk into TNA and not even try. He can phone it in, and TNA will accept it. Um, I've never seen them really turn on anybody from WWE. I mean, they took in Flair when he was like 100. You know what I mean? So I don't see TNA really booing him or being upset about him. And I don't blame them. He is a legacy. He is the son of Dusty Rhodes. So I could see why they wouldn't boo him. I think I'd find it hard to boo him as well. Um, but I think the easiest route would be TNA. I think he gets over big time in TNA, and he wins the title in about a month or two. Um, then you got New Japan. If he goes to New Japan, that would be the most interesting for me, because the Super J Cup is right around the corner, the Super Juniors Cup, which is like their cruiserweight tournament they're having, which they've had since forever. The first one being in '94, Super J Cup '94. And I think the cruiserweight tournament this year should be great. It always is great. It's always like the best showing of the year. It usually has the best match of the year when it happens, and I think this year will be no different. I think the Super J Cup will be amazing this year. And if Cody can make weight and be in the Super J Cup, I think that would be out of this world. I think he could do well in the tournament. I don't think he could win, but I think he could do well. Um, I don't think New Japan puts him over right away unless they really see something that I don't see. Um, because they have been known to do that. New Japan gave the belt to AJ on his first day, so New Japan has been known to do that if they think somebody is good enough in the ring. And I think Cody's really good, but I don't know if he deserves to win the Super J Cup over the talents like Ricochet and everybody else that's going to be there. Ricochet is Prince Puma, for those that don't know. Um, I think Cody can make it in New Japan. I think he struggles more in New Japan than anywhere else. I think it takes him about a year or two of training up there, but I think he makes it. I think he makes it as a junior. I don't doubt his determination or his skill. I think he could definitely make it in New Japan, but I think it would take a while. I don't think he can just show up and be a celebrity. I think he would have to be very respectful, be willing to train at the dojo, and learn how things work in Japan. And then I think he will get over with time. Uh, the guy has a lot of charisma. He's very sound in the ring. So I think he would get over even in the harshness that is New Japan. As far as the Japanese indies, I'm sure he'll do fine. He can do DDT as the Stardust character if he chooses to. Um, I think Noah would be a little more difficult, but I think he can do it as well. Um, More difficult than DDT. I don't think it'd be as difficult as New Japan. I think New Japan is the most difficult option as far as their fan base is concerned. Again, wherever he goes, he's a celebrity as soon as he walks. And sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties. I was able to save myself mid conversation, so we're back. Um, I was saying that he could fit in DDT, and I think his Stardust character would do well there, as well as in Shikara. Excuse me, but I do think that those places are way too under his pay range. I think excuse me, he's used to a certain lifestyle. He's used to a certain amount of money, and going to a place like DDT or Chikara would probably be not benefit him financially. Um, so although I think it'd be a perfect fit with his Stardust character, I think it'd be hilarious. I think that would fit more for us, the fans, and not for him or the companies, because those companies would be put under tremendous stress that they probably can't handle, because he's a celebrity and everybody would want to go to the shows, and they would have to like get new venues and sell more tickets and do all this stuff. So those aren't really good options for him. As far as Noah, that's another one where I don't think they'd be able to pay him as much, but I think he could do it if he chooses to. Um, haven't seen much from the UK. Sorry about that. Like I said, I had technical difficulties, so I had to restart. But at the very least, I got to eat. Haven't seen much from the UK. Seen, but from what I have seen, excuse me, it's basically U.S. Indies, but a little more fast paced. It doesn't have as much high spots as Mexico, but it could be compared to the Mexican style because of how much they demand speed. You know what I mean? And there's also a good amount of head drops, so it can also be compared to Japan in that way. UK has its own scene going. I think again he's a celebrity, so he'd be welcome, and he'd be a celebrity as soon as he walks in the doors. Because WWE is the most recognizable brand, and because of that, he would be more recognizable to casuals um, anywhere in the world because WWE is broadcast all over the world. So I mean, to wrap it up, I think he does well in ROH. I think there would be a bit of transition time, but I think he does well. I think he does well in New Japan. Uh, I think there'd be a longer bit of transition time, but I think he does well. I think he does more than well in TNA. I think he's champion in a week or two. I think he does well in Mexico, but I think he would have to do their training just like he would for New Japan. Um, Overall, I would think his best bet would be ROH. It's still in the States, and he can rebrand himself, rebuild himself, and hopefully come back to WWE with more star power than before, with the huge legion of fans that are loyal to him. And I think he can do it in ROH very easily. I don't think it'll be as tough as, say, in New Japan, where he would have to prove himself among a very filled up roster, or Mexico, where he would have to learn how to do a lot of fancy aerial stuff before they'll even think about him. You know what I mean? I don't think Mexico would pay enough. I think New Japan and ROH could, if he was willing to take the pay cut. But realistically, I think he's just going to take some time off with his wife and, you know, make that new Rhodes to continue in the family legacy, hopefully. If not, that's fine as well. No pressure. But more than likely, he's probably just going to settle down, maybe buy a business or two. Maybe wrestling has just worn his body out. Chances are he has a good, stable foundation for the future. And regardless of what he chooses to do, if this was a release that he asked for because he wanted to get more fame and become even more of a Hall of Famer than he already is, realistically, he's a future WWE Hall of Famer, whether he wants it or not, more than likely. Or if this is something that he's just doing for his family, we don't necessarily know. Only Cody knows the answer to that, but I'm just speculating because that's what the internet is for. And with that, thank you for watching. V for Victory.